Deicide. Hello and welcome to Deicide. I'm your host, Demon Machine, and I'm joined by a bunch of people. Hi-Res Bart from Hi-Res, Sprayarn from Denial EU, Raken from the Denial Ladies. Ooh, do they deny ladies or what? Anyway, and then Pon from Curse Gaming. Yay. So, we're going to get started off with our normal Q&A from Hi-Res Bart after I figure out who is echoing. Up, and it stopped. Okay, cool. It's an odd echo in this thing, but it just goes away and comes and goes. So, continuing on. Let's get started with our Q&A of Hi-Res Bart. So, Bart, just right off the very beginning bat of everything that happened over the weekend that just makes people go, what? What did you think of Denial and Root finals in the EU tournament? Because they happened in the EU tournament for the fact that Root didn't play Saturday, and then apparently like 11 o'clock that night, Lassus was messaged by, I guess, Matty Pocket, and he was like, we want to play tomorrow. And he's like, I thought we agreed we weren't. And they're like, nope, we're playing. He's like, all right, I'll go sign up. And so they signed up, they played, and they met with Denial. They beat SK in the semifinals, and then they met up with Denial in the finals, and won game one and lost the next two games. Not handily the second game, but they just got destroyed the third game.
Yeah, I think that I would have really liked to, have, I guess, the time and effort and all that, everything that goes. I would have loved to see the Root SK go 3 games. Like I would have loved that would have been a best of 3. I think that ultimately SK should have won that series personally. Yeah. Like I think that all signs pointed to them, and then I'm sure that they're looking back at that like, oh, man, damn it, we really had an opportunity here to. But I mean, the finals was, as you mentioned. I mean, game 2 was really the game to look at, as the kind of was a really highly contended one, and then after losing that, and then giving Spray here the hell mid lane, it kind of just it got out of hand for them. I mean, they played a lot of Apollo, which was surprising to me in latency. But I guess that was probably just so that they didn't have to ban it, and so that.
Spray, didn't you guys ban Apollo the second and third game?
Apollo was picked by Root the first game, and he snowballed out of control. So game 2, we banned Apollo. We actually forced Statman to play Neef, and we then picked Hades Odin to actually shut down Neef pretty hard, which we did. So yeah.
Yeah, like I was just surprised that they picked Apollo, who's such a auto attack based character on EU ping, and it works so well.
Yeah, but at the same time, like he didn't really need to auto attack that much. Like all they had to do was just push the lane. Like that's
split push and lane, and the burst damage is actually really high on his abilities as well. So
yeah.
Well, the other thing I kind of wanted to bring up was looking at their pings and stuff when they were streaming it themselves. They only had 100 to 150 on EU servers, so it's not. It's like
that's what I play at.
Yeah, it's like what Spray wishes they had when they were playing on EU servers, and that's what Spray. What is your ping on EU?
On EU servers, my ping is like 60, 70.
Okay.
On NA, it's like 200.
That's I thought. Yeah, it's something really high, especially when you get those Eastern European guys playing on North America. It's really high. So anyway, back into other questions for Bart. What is the next God coming out? Are you guys releasing that info yet? Officially? Nope. There's no previews this week yet?
Not that I'm aware of. I have patch notes to go over today. I guess I can tease that there will be, for this next tournament, there'll be a fairly minor change to Fire Giant, how it works.
Oh.
But
obviously we got to ban out Fire Giant.
It's not too big. Like it's not like something where it's like, and now you can't solo the Fire Giant. But it certainly will make it'll have some changes. So that's coming up.
Oh, neat.
There's also some
bug fixes.
Assuming that this actually makes it in the next hour before I go and talk about it, is that we tested today currently a new starter item that is very effective at what it's intended to do, and it has to do with
push. No.
That's right. It actually allows you to make a mirror of yourself in the opposite lane to split push. No, it actually is incentivizes jungling.
Ooh.
So I'll give
Ooh.
you all the details in a bit, but you can think about it like it's similar to Midas boots,
Uh-oh.
but it works in the jungle. So you get like additional things for killing neutrals, not necessarily just golden experience or gold or experience or gold and experience, but you get things for killing neutrals. So we're gonna see. I would be open to the idea of player feedback on whether or not it should be allowed in the tournament this weekend, because it is a very new mechanic and potentially destabilizing, I think.
Yeah. Oh, but it's so good to see it in tournaments. I love throwing things
Oh,
like that in
man.
there.
But
Does this mean Arachne will do some crazy things now?
yeah, I have some amount of like, I don't know. I would just like to hear more of, kind of the opinion of the teams as to whether or not they want to allow something. Like, obviously the Fire Giant changes, you don't have an option, right? It's like, yes. But I mean, when it's like something like this item, then it's brand new, and we're patching on a Thursday. We normally are able to patch on Wednesdays. That gives you only 1 day to practice it if you're NA, 2 days if you're EU. It just, I'm 50-50 on it. So I'll be interested to see the opinion of you, the esteemed panel, and many more people.
We'll have to do a Reddit post and do a poll. New starter item this weekend or not?
I want to say no. Like, I haven't seen it yet, but
Yeah.
if it's something that really changes like picks and bans and like the gameplay, then
I
probably.
am, yeah, I'm leaning definitely towards saying no. That it would
Okay.
not be available unless there's overwhelming, like, oh no, it seems very, very reasonable. I'm sure we'll have no problems. And we love playing Arachne and Kali in the jungle and whatnot. So
I guess my only fear, I have no idea how the items. My only fear is that like a lot of the pro players do the whole to farm jungle while you farm the lane, and you can
Yes.
farm it so optimally that you don't actually need to be a full-time jungler. I worry that this item would like really incentivize that too hard, but I have no
That's-
idea what the item is, so who knows?
that's basically it. That would be my concern as well, is that based on how it works, in terms of I don't know where it's ultimately going to end up, but we've been looking at different options for it, and one of the things that it was doing at one point when I was testing it was that it was giving you a percentage of the health of the minion that you killed, if it was a neutral. So I have some concerns around that being able to snowball lanes too hard. Like, you just will have, like, killing the blue camp will also give you a percentage of the blue camp's health and then a bunch of mana regen. Like, you may never ever have to leave the lane as Kali. So, we'll see. But, with it definitely, like, the way the items was configured last time I was playing with it was that, the Hand of the Gods was kind of, like, necessary to pair with it, to, like, get similar to how the Vampiric Shroud was at one point in the meta. But we'll see. We'll see what ends up.
That seems awesome. All right, some other questions. Let's see, some relevant questions. Will there be any other new jungle-related things coming other than the new starter item?
Yeah, no.
You guys aren't planning on doing a major map change to make it bigger and put a bigger jungler in or something like that?
Not this patch, no. And, I mean, it's not something that's planned, at least certainly not publicly.
Yeah. Okay. Some other people asking, of course, the generic question of matchmaking. What does it pick? You have a regular ELO if you play ranked, and then you have a hidden ELO if you do not play ranked, correct?
That's correct.
And so if somebody is at your hidden ELO level and they're level 12, then they'll get matched up with you?
Correct.
Okay.
If you're a really bad level 30 player, you'll be playing with low levels. Because you're bad. And so are they.
But I still to do that though. Like, I still play with people who is like level. So
Yeah, I mean,
mean,
if you
it's bad,
win...
or-
Like, I mean, it's like any rating system, right? Like, if you win, like, 4 games in a row at really low level by a huge margin because you're smurfing, like, your level 6 account can play with level 30s.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Like, I mean, that's how ELO works. That's
Yeah.
how those kind of matchmakings work. Is they go, oh well, this guy won this first game by this crazy margin. He was 100 gold a minute or whatever relevant stats it looks at, right? It goes, okay, well, this guy, we're gonna give him 50 more points, but the system's pretty sure because of how hard you won that you're actually way, way better than it has you at right now. So the next time you win, if you win by a crazy amount, it's like, oh, I'm like 90% certain this guy's actually probably about a 2,500 ELO player. So subsequent wins, unless you start really doing terrible, it'll just continue to be more and more confident that you're actually much better than your current elo, and you'll continue to gain points very rapidly, up into the point that you're playing against top players. If you are going back and forth, of course, it has all kinds of other stuff going on. Now, it will do things like, the 4 of us queue and 4 other people queue that are also in the 3,000 elo range, let's say, and then it'll put like a 700 elo person on both teams. Like, I believe it will do that, and that I can understand is frustrating. But, at the end of the day, it's making the best match that it possibly can at the given time.
Yeah. Is there any thoughts on letting the people see their own hidden elo while not making it public kind of thing?
Maybe.
Just out of curiosity kind of thing?
I don't know. I don't have any insight into that entire part of the system. I have no idea.
Yeah. Lots of people have been asking, of course, with the custom skinning option, is there any option, or is there any possible plans of letting people make their own custom skins to sell in like a store or whatnot, where like they can make a skin and then Hi-Rez would take 10 cents and
no.
they would get 10 cents or something like that?
Short answer, no. Long answer, no. They're talking about Dota, right? Yeah. And Steamworks is, the entire platform is industry leading. Right? That's like Steamworks, the Source engine, and the Dota kind of bastardization of the Source engine. That stuff is industry leading. Everyone looks at them and goes, wow.
Yeah.
They actually did it, So, would we like to? Sure. And, could we support something like a poly count contest at some point in the future? Sure, I'm sure. But, like, at this point, it's not like, that's just over the horizon where you're going to be able to submit. And plus, to be perfectly honest with you, I strongly doubt that there's a lot of people in the community that can make high-fidelity Unreal Engine 3 skins with all the proper materials and this, specular mapping and everything that goes into making them not look like they're plastic Gears of War characters. And plus, you have an art style like requirement.
Yeah.
So if we're taking, like I said, it'd be more of something like it's a poly count contest and like the best one we make. It's highly unlikely that something would be made that, if you look at something like Valve, right, they have, 500 developers or whatever, and a few of them can go and remake player skins and fit them to their art style and tweak them a little bit and make them more performance friendly. But, we just don't have that bandwidth.
Yeah. It's a very fair question as well. Yeah, that's a question. Will there ever be any magical defensive items that give physical damage? Like
I'm not even gonna bother answering that question.
You've answered it before. I think you answered it last
it's just
week.
like maybe, like I don't know. Like I'm not like they're not like sending me like options like this week should we make Ankh the Golem better or add the physical damage magic power item or it's like I don't know, man. Potentially, I think that it's very clear that the synonym of that exists, right? The Wall of Absolution. Mm-hmm. Will we do the inverse of it? Probably.
Yeah.
I think that right now there's a lot going on with gods. There's a lot going on with the balance outside of items, and that's why we're not adding items. We do want to add more items, more abilities, but based on all the other stuff that's going on, it's just not the right time. But we do have a lot of things like backed up that are ready to go in. Like for example, I can give you an example of stuff that I sent on. Like I sent on what if we had an ability that was like the magic stick in Dota, right? Where it was like instead of meditation, where you got all of your mana and 20% of your health back plus MP5. It was like every time an enemy cast a spell, you gained a charge, and then you could blow your charges on a shorter cooldown to get health and mana back, right? Like, so we do have things kind of that are being evaluated and are kind of just sitting around and we'll look at. And, like obviously there's items like the Hydra's Lament, and there's other items that, that are just really bad and you really shouldn't buy them. So there's some weapon optimization, there's some item optimization, there's some new items, there's some new abilities and everything that's kind of we're holding that for the moment as we experiment with other pieces. Like for example, in-hand magic damage, hit progressions like Naja has, these types of things.
Yeah. What have you guys noticed with Zeus since you've changed him? Have you is he going to need a massive nerf since the change, or is he
used
looking
to
good?
be an outlier in terms of how bad he was. Now he is okay.
Okay.
So all around, does he need a nerf? The data does certainly not indicate that at this point.
Okay. Fair enough. So the change got what you guys were hoping for, bringing him kind of more in line than he was way before.
It did more. It got him closer. He's still fairly weak, but he's not like the worst.
Is there still the worst god that is looking? Is it like Bacchus still with the just people?
Bacchus and Hercules are both very, very weak, and when it comes to like total population, even if you look at like people that are over 30 with an elo that's in the top 50% of all elos, Bacchus and Hercules are still extremely weak.
That surprised me so much.
It's crazy to me as well. I mean, I feel like Hercules was even changed right in the last patch to make him a little bit more friendly in terms of like the number 3 just gives you flat healing now. So that all the people out there that are like, I don't understand, I used my heal and it didn't heal me, could at least get something out of it. And we just kind of theory crafted that was a big problem. He's still extremely weak. And he has like 500 base damage on Driving Strike at rank 5. Like, it's like madness. He does so much damage, just so much survivability. He gets all kinds of healing. People just suck horribly with him. And the same thing with Bacchus, right? Bacchus makes more sense. And Bacchus, I think, is in a pretty good position in terms of top-end play, right? Where it's like, the reason that he's hard to use is because mechanically he's fairly complicated. Versus Hercules, it's like he's really straightforward and everyone just is bad, apparently. Like, I mean, Bacchus is like, okay, well, you kind of need a rank up drink to level 2 optimally, and then max out your 2 and your 3 because you don't really need level 3, and it's easier to mana sustain off 2, and you don't need to fill the meter that fast. You at least want to, well, all these reasons and all these little intricacies with playing him, and do you buy meditation? Do you not buy meditation? And the thing is, I think with so many gods, people just buy meditation on them. And for so many of them, it's just not very... Hercules being a great example. Like, Hercules doesn't dump mana like that, but I'm sure that the problem is most people are buying meditation on him. And they're like, I don't understand why I always die, because you don't have, Girdle and Sprint or, or Beads, Aegis or whatever,
Yeah.
So, we'll see. I think Bacchus is unlikely to be significantly changed. At least I hope he's not buffed due to our poor competitive players.
Please.
He would need to be side graded to make him easier to play, not buffed, in my opinion. Whereas Hercules is like, who knows, man. His Hercules 2 is not impossible to hit. I think
You can like one-shot people, like 2-1 boulders, someone dies.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
I don't understand. Like, and usually those types of like press 4 to win style characters work really well for low level players. Hercules just doesn't do it for some reason.
So the question kind of relates to what I guess we should ask was, do you guys have plans on making all magic casters do magic attack damage?
It's unclear to me right now.
Okay, because
it'll probably just end up being another knob that's able to be turned if so desired.
Okay. Because I mean, you'd think that it would
potentially
be reasonable
yes.
for
I mean, it's
raw.
the same question. It's the same question as like, will all melee physical eventually have a hit progression like Naja? Possibly. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. So this is 2 weeks now for Isis, right? Since she's been released, so she'll be available this weekend in play.
She will.
That will be fun. That will be very fun. Do you see her in a particular role this weekend, mid or side lane?
I would be surprised to see her mid because she has 0 push potential. And I feel like I mean it's one of those like kind of like niche picks for mid, I feel like. And I don't know, I haven't seen her in high level play as a side lane support. But I'm on record. Yeah, she has 0 push potential. She doesn't do any damage to towers, the number 1. It's purely minion pushing. And minions, if you recall in the last patch, deal less damage to towers now. But I don't know... I don't know if she can exist as a side lane support, so it's probably just going to be a niche mid pick, would be my guess. Like, I just don't think she stacks up. She doesn't have enough lane control to deal with something like a Guan or an Amir.
I have actually been playing Isis mid a bit, and from the things I have played her, like the games I've played her in, she feels a bit, how should I say it? She feels a bit underpowered compared to like Agni, Poseidon, and Hell. Like I think like, to me at least, it doesn't feel like she will be like a higher ranked pick over Agni. Like I think Agni, Poseidon will still be more viable. But she does have like a really good ulti. Like the ulti is amazing. It's really powerful.
Yeah, the ultimate's going to be where she's going to shine in competitive play, if anything.
Yeah.
But can she be played like? I agree, right? It's like you'd have to ban out so much to make like you have to ban Agni. I feel like Agni wins. I feel like Poseidon, you can deal with him because the number 1 is technically a run speed steroid, not a movement ability, so you can get out of cripple okay and not eat all the damage from it. but like her turnaround potential is not going to be there versus the Poseidon, I feel like. And like you can stalemate that out, similar as playing Ao Kuang versus a Poseidon. But does that leave you enough? And then, follow that up is that does she have enough utility to play a side lane? I mean, would you guys see her running as a side lane support? I mean, it's got a range stun and a slow.
Potentially in the left as a kill lane with some really aggressive, like with a Thor or something. I can imagine a stun landing and Thor spinning in one, and a silence to keep any interrupts off Thor. I could see that happening, but it's going to be situational. I think we'll see Isis played in the weekend, but I don't know how well we'll do.
You have to have a really good bruiser, I think, because she's so squishy herself that you can't have like a Neath with her because you're just going to flat out take too much damage.
Yeah, it'll be Odin, Herc, Thor that would get paired in the side lane.
Something that can take damage as well, and not just... Because, I mean, Isis can't be a pure tank and do anything useful.
Well, she has like one of the lowest scalings ever on like health and defense, it seems.
She does. She scales, I think, at the same rate as Hebo.
Yeah.
I want to say, who obviously is... kind of S+ tier in terms of damage output as a mage, so she certainly is not. I mean, she does lots of damage in the late game, but it's fairly challenging, I think, to play her. And I don't know, I just feel like her snowball isn't as effective as someone like an Agni or a Poseidon or even Hell.
Yeah.
Like, a 15,000 gold Isis does nice damage, but
doesn't just blow people up like
that. It's not that thing, I don't think.
It'll just come down to how good the ult placements are. That's the only thing that is going to really keep her. Because like her ult can do a lot of damage, but the big thing is it heals your team, and you can just turn a fight hard. That's the strength she has, and that's good because she's a support. She's not a Hebo, but we'll see how that works. I think a lot of AOE teams will run it. Like pair that with like a Hades and then like another Bruiser and then 2 AOEs, like a Poseidon mid or something.
So we're going to start...
like Odin, Poseidon, Isis, Hades, and then you can probably win a fight that way.
Get Zeus too, just to put icing on the cake.
Yeah.
Literally. All right, cool. Well, I guess we'll move away from our particular Q&A with Bart. And actually, Bart, do you have any questions for our panelists since we have, Pon and Spray Yarn here?
No, I mean, I specifically, no. I mean, I was, I guess interested in kind of the opinion on Isis, of course. And I'll be interested in kind of the reaction to the stuff that I have to reveal today about this, specifically around this jungle item. And, really, like I said, I'm leaning towards saying that it should not be available this weekend for competition play unless there's at least not like an overwhelming, like, no, we think it's balanced, but just like we don't, we would rather play with it than not opinion from the competitive community, because I'm sure there's going to be like any change ever that happens, there's always like some amount of like, this is the greatest thing that ever happened, I hate this, I'm leaving. You always get those like highly polarized kind of responses to anything. So outside of that, if we just get some amount of consensus from the teams that is like, hey, we'd at least like to try it, we don't really care if it's it's available to both teams, yada yada yada.
Yep.
As long as there's no major bugs with it, which we'll find out hopefully tomorrow, I'm not too concerned about that. Specifically questions. Yeah, I mean, I guess like one of them, I was just a little bit surprised, especially in the NA scene, and I guess this is more to Pon, but like we didn't really see Andister play Freya, and Freya wasn't picked a lot this weekend, and neither was Hebo. Like last weekend, it was like Hebo and Freya were like side lane carries, and that's what you saw. And occasionally you'd see the Anhur or the Apollo come out, but they were generally banned. Now, in the last weekend, we saw them picking up Hercules over Freya, versus generally the same team comps. Is there a reason that Freya's falling out of favor?
I think a lot of it comes to people have learned to deal with Freya, and same thing to Hebo. Freya's taken long because Freya's, I think, more consistent than Hebo. Hebo can get shut down or just carry really hard. But Hebo was known that he was strong for a while, but no one really brought him into the competitive scene until like a week ago, and that forced everyone to like relearn/learn how to deal with him again. And I think that's why he fell back off. Freya is just consistently like people have learned to fight her. They know the damage potential. They know not like when I was playing in PAX, people didn't know that I could 3-shot you with the 2-1 combo because no one played Freya. But now people know, and I think Freya, while he still does a lot of damage, just isn't as good. surprise-wise as she used to be.
Yeah, people
And that
know
goes double for Hebo.
Yeah, it's been interesting in the NA scene. It's kind of been back and forth week over week. Like one week you'll see like super high priority bans on Bacchus and Thor, and then like Fenrir and Apollo or something like that. And then you'll see like Hercules Odin lanes come out. And then like the next week it'll be like Odin is banned every game because no one wants to deal with Odin. And if they pick a Hercules and Odin's not banned, it's like the worst thing in the world. And then like the next week it's like, oh yeah, whatever, give him Hercules Odin, we'll run, Neath Hades, or it's like and it's been really back and forth. It's been really interesting to understand why that's the case, and I really don't understand how it's shifting back and forth in the meta because there hasn't been a tremendous amount of changes that would make bruiser or non-bruiser viability change at this point. But we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens this week, I guess.
Yeah, so to just kind of like let everybody else know what we were talking about, we were kind of discussing what was going on with the tournaments, and as we have here this lovely graphic of the tournament winners this weekend, which was in the EU, Denial Esports came in first, Root Gaming came in second because they were playing on the European circuit, I guess, the best way of putting it, and then SK Gaming came in the third after losing to Root. So that was Root did not play in the North American tournament, which is their results were Curse, Snipe, and Reason for second and third. So Ponpon, you weren't playing this weekend, were you? You were still subbing, right?
Yeah. And I know that some people know this Best left and Zerogar's left, and I think I'll be coming back, and I think we'll be finding another person. So you can probably expect me to play this weekend.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Nice. So the Best went to Snipe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where did Zerogars go? To Snipe as well, or he just?
I have no idea.
Have to find out. If anybody knows in the question, basically, why was Root allowed to play in the European tournament was because they did not play in the North American tournament this past weekend, and you're allowed one region per weekend. So if you want to play, in a region that you don't have a great ping, you're more than welcome to try. And so,
if I may say something about that,
go ahead.
I totally understand that if you were unable to play on Saturday, you can play on Sunday. But I really wish that this wasn't gonna become like every week now, because that will really if Snipe or Curse or Root plays in the EU tournament now every weekend, that's gonna negate the whole aspect of having
splitting the scene.
Separate, yeah. So I really hope we don't see them. No, wait, that sounds bad. I really hope we don't see more NA teams trying to play in the EU ones, because I feel like EU scenes needs its kind of own thing, and I feel like NA scene needs its own thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they need to kind of grow separately, so to speak.
Yeah.
And not have too much, because
it's one of those things. I think that, and I'll exit on this. Well, two things. One, I'll address this first, is that that this is a fairly transitory problem, because eventually, in some not tremendously long time frame, we'll be looking at monthlies, and at that point, you'll be locked for a month in terms of your region, and then it's really a non-issue. Where are you really going to go play in EU for a month to prove a point? Maybe, but that's a pretty big sacrifice.
Yeah.
So I think that it'll be alleviated by that. If it becomes prevalent where teams are selecting to play in the European region because they think it's an
easier
bracket, which I don't think is true. I think realistically, if you look at the NA scene and you say Snipe, Curse, and Root are all trading for 1, 2, and 3, and you look at the EU scene and you have E-Lemon and BLG and EU now Denial, and you have SK, all kind of trading around in those top spots as well. Now that Vix has dropped back out.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like there's the NA bracket is 8 teams deep that are all in the top tier, so to speak.
Yeah.
And there's more teams in the EU bracket to go through as well. So I don't know that it's not a I don't know that it's a huge problem, but if it continues to be something that goes on and on, then obviously we'll look to address it. But as it stands right now, I was comfortable with what happened this weekend. If Root goes to the next 2 weeks and say we want to play EU and I guess it's kind of rough. I don't know. I'll have to just think about it, I guess. I don't know that there's a big problem with that. If you want to play in, I don't understand necessarily that there's the problem that they want to play in 150 ping. why is that not their prerogative? Like, it'd be the same thing as if we ran an all-European, all the. I mean, it's basically like, it's not so much that it's a European-only tournament, it's a tournament in which all the servers will be European.
Yeah,
I guess is the way that we think about it internally. The other thing that I wanted to say before I left is that I'm really glad that Pon's playing this weekend, because the title for the stream this weekend was going to have to be like, Smite NA tournament, $1,000 weekly. Pon not playing because of school. Like, seriously, like all of the chat.
That's why I'm not playing.
Yeah. Seriously. Like every maybe 10th line of chat was like, "What about Pon?"
I mean, it was definitely finals in school, and then like afterwards, I just kind of had the burnout, and so I was like, I'll sub myself, I'll let Shadow Q see what he wants to do with the team. And I said that multiple times, but like, the word just doesn't get out, and people are like, did like Pon leave Curse?
Oh man, so much did Pon quit. Like, I swear, like the mods, like 50% of the time they were answering that question.
I'll probably play this weekend.
Yeah, Bart, the last question I wanted to get cleared up is more of the thing. Is teams that rename themselves keep their seeding points, but teams that change out too many members lose their seeding points because they're effectively a new team, even if they're the same name.
Yeah.
Is that you see that it, like, wasn't the I guess you have to keep 3 of the 5 originals to be the same team with your seed points, but if you lose more than, because you have to come up with a definitive line somewhere. You can't just be like, well, it's mostly this guy. You got to draw a line at
if
3
week
people.
over week, and I know this is a call you had to make on the fly. But yeah, we'll provisionally add it to the rules as well. Basically, yeah, that if you change more than half of your team, so in this case, out of a 5-man team, 3 of the players, where it gets complicated is around like, I would say it's if you don't start 3 of your starting members, including subs, then you're not the same team. That where it gets complicated is like, and this is something that's like really important, that is very strictly ironed out when we start talking about seeding points mattering week over week in a really meaningful way. Right now they reset every month, and are fairly just representative of last week's play.
Yeah.
But if it is indeed a new team, and meaning that 3 new players, and that's the new starting roster, I would say that it would be that you would reset the seed points there. If it's you've brought on you've brought in one of your registered subs, or 2 of your registered subs, and then have a ringer, then no, you would keep your seed points because both of those are registered subs. So, but yeah, in the event that your starting roster has 3 people changed, I think that is indeed a new team.
Okay, and then just changing
Is
your
that
name.
in response to Reason?
Do what? No, that was actually a response to Elam in this past weekend. They had 4 of the people swap out, or was it just 3?
It was
because
4 people.
It was. I think it was officially 3, but basically 4 people because one person dropped out and was like, "I'm not a part of the team anymore." But they're like, "Well, I'll come play this weekend," and so it was very confusing. And so I had to make that decision on the fly because some of the teams were like, "Well, why do they get their seed points when they basically have a new team?" That's a very good point. So I guess we'll have to remove their seed points because it's only 2 people from the original team. What constitutes a whole team, etc. So. All right, Bart. Well, we will let you go. You got like 10 minutes.
All right, guys. Thanks. I gotta go sync up on the patch notes, which I'll be bringing to you in about 10 minutes. So, see you guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
And enjoy the rest of the show.
Yeah.
Good day.
You too.
Good day, Bart.
Of course, now I'll have to read you the.
I actually want to acknowledge something, Demon, that was said in chat.
Sure.
Somebody said that the Smite community hates Spanish-speaking players, and I don't think that's true at all. I think it's we don't understand what you're saying, and the majority of the community speaks English. So when you're trying to call a lane and we can't understand what you're saying, it makes it really difficult to be able to communicate through the entire game. Thank God for voice commands.
Yeah. Isn't that the case?
I know very little bit of Spanish. I live in Arizona, so I kind of have to.
I can say burrito and hola, and that's about it.
Yeah, it's not like we hate Spanish speakers. It would be more of the fact we don't like having to deal with communication issues as well as the game.
Mm-hmm.
Because
because it's already, especially in solo queue, it's already hard enough when you're in a game and you're trying to communicate with multiple people to get something situated in, like a minute and a half. Mm-hmm. So to add language barriers to that, it's just really frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want Sprayer on here to be talking to me in Swedish the whole time. That would just irritate me.
Mm-hmm.
Nor would Spray like me to talk to him in Southern. I don't know.
Pig Latin.
Yes,
This
Pig
entire
Latin.
show is now Pig Latin.
Exactly. That's perfect. That's perfect. So questions for our panel. What do you guys have any discussions? I mean, come on. The big thing of the weekend was just that Root got upset by Denial. I mean, Pon, what did you think of that whole series? Did you watch the games?
I didn't watch the games. I had hung out with a friend that evening, and I didn't even wake up until all of it was over. And I woke up to look at the final screen of like 28-2, and I just looked at my friend like, "What happened?" And I went back and I watched the game, and it ended up with like it was an invade that caused like the game to just snowball like out of control. An invade that went really well for Denial.
Yeah,
and
but
like there's some sloppy play on Root's part too.
they had a fail invade in the second game and still managed to come back and win that too. Like Denial went in and got killed, or got a reverse double kill, I guess is the best way of putting it. They both got killed going in, and then they managed to come back from that. But yeah, I mean, they had it all. It all fell into place in the
That
last
was like
game.
you expect like the final game of the best of 3 of the finals is like this crazy good game, and it just ends up being 28-8. While the first 2 games were way closer. It just seems that just like I woke up and I was like, what happened?
Yeah, I mean, when we were watching it, it was just freaking out because it's like, holy crap, they got another kill! It's like 17-2. Yeah,
Yep.
it was one of those games that you love watching as a spectator because I'm a big fan of the underdog. It doesn't mean that I hate Root or I hate Denial or anybody like that. I just like rooting for the team that isn't the top team right now. Because I loved rooting for Root when Curse was dominant. When you guys were just winning and winning and winning, I was like, oh, I want to see Root just take them down. Oh, this would be so nice. Because when that happens, it's like, oh, all this energy in the community. People are so excited for this new team doing all this crazy stuff. And so it just like brings back this vibrant like experience to the whole esports scene when it's just this one team winning all the time. It's like, oh yeah, Root won again, or oh yeah, Denial won again. So I mean, if Denial goes on this crazy 30-game winning streak, I'm gonna root for somebody to beat them, even though, yeah, that's just the way it is.
Like I was just really worried that like Denial wouldn't win the EU one because I feel like because I thought it was a little bit sketchy that they went on the EU one when they can't make it to NA, but I mean it doesn't really matter, but like it will matter eventually.
Yeah,
And so I was really hoping Denial would win, and I was kind of glad they did.
I think it was kind of same with SK was I knew that I had this thought that it's a catch-22. It's like a lose-lose situation for the winning team in Europe because if the European team won, if the European team lost, then oh my God, ping doesn't matter, Root best team ever, that kind of thing. If European wins, then ping does matter. They can't play on this abhorrent ping. It's obviously they lost because they had a terrible, connection. So I mean, either way, it's like they don't truly win. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
You get that like Spray. Do you have that feeling too?
Nah, I mean, yes and no. Like, I was like, well, Hood is a really good team, and even if they have like, semi-high ping, like, I still think they could have like, beaten us. So what happened was like, we came into the matchup and thinking like, guys, you just play your best, like you just play as good as you can, and if it doesn't work out, then it's fine, But we played good, and we played really good, I will say, actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it, I guess.
Yeah, it was good. Well, we have about 7 minutes until we are done. Is there any questions? What? You got a problem with my jokes? I see.
Well, actually, like it was funny because I was actually baiting out the Hellband in game 1, because in the semi-final game, I played Hell because I wanted to like fear them, to like force them into a Hellband, which they did. The only thing I didn't really take into account was that Apollo was so strong. he got way too big.
Yeah, so I mean, what did happen the first game? You were saying that who got too big? Wasn't it Zap that was,
Yeah.
Zap on Apollo
He
was getting really
Yes.
problematic, and that's why you guys ended up banning him out the second game. And did you ban him
Yeah.
out third game too?
Yes, we did.
Yeah. So, like, don't give Zap Apollo, we win. Yay.
Exactly.
It's
Well,
Sunglasses Day
it's not
here.
that easy, but yeah. It's a lot easier, at least.
But I mean, then you guys focused. Why didn't you do an invade on Zapman's lane versus Anatoly and Anderster's lane? Because I mean, that was in the third game when you guys invaded that. That's what you got the double kill on. Even though in the second game, that's the lane you guys got that reverse double kill on, or died twice.
Well, I think I think it's like what picks you have. If you have Ymir Anna, it's very easy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you invade it with Ymir Anna, like it's very easy to get a kill, if so to speak. But I think we had in left lane we had like Neef and Hades, I think. And Neef and Hades isn't very good for taking other people's buffs, I will say.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not really the best invade, you know. So
Yeah.
I think that's why we didn't really invade Sapman. But it still went good, so
Cool.
not the end of the world.
Awesome. Well, anything else you guys want to talk about? What do you guys think of this new jungle item? This possible. jungle?
I need to see the stats on it before I determine that it's broken as hell.
Is that your prediction?
I just played a game as Bakasura where my team had a 5k gold lead, and that was solely on me, and I was level 20 before anyone hit 15, and I had, by the end of the game, I was doubling the gold of some other people on the enemy team, all from really optimal jungle farming, and if this item enhances that, I'm scared.
Cool. So,
Like, that's terrifying to me.
what do you think that the stats are like, or like the generic stats are from what he teased?
I'm hoping it's not like he said it's like Midas, so I'm guessing increased gold or increased experience along with some form of health regen. Because the big thing, like if you're making a full jungle item, you need to address that minions don't die fast enough for you to do it alone, unless you're like Arachne.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to address the fact that while you'll stay even in gold, you don't stay even with levels unless you get a gank off.
Okay. Well, I mean, shouldn't that kind of be a trade-off, though? If you're going to go full jungle, you need to gank to stay relevant.
Yeah. Well, you need a gank because, I mean, you'll kill the jungle mobs, and you have like 2 minutes to kill before they all respawn.
Yeah. I wonder if they modified the jungle to also take into account this new item, like made them stronger, respawn more often, or anything like that.
I'm just excited, though, that, like, for hopefully a week after it's released, I'll be able to play Arachne just all the time.
You're a big fan of Arachne?
She's my most played god, above Kali even. She was like
Fair
the
enough.
first god I bought, and I was like, I'm gonna main her, and then I played her for a long time, and then I got bored of her, but I'm like, she's still cool.
She's a cool spider. She's a cool spider.
Mhm.
So, Raken, do you want to tell us about the Denial Ladies?
What would you like to know?
Well, what do you get? What's your guys' goal as the Denial Ladies? Are you guys like a
Well,
show?
we just increased practices to a fairly intense schedule. We will not be participating this weekend, but next weekend we will be.
Oh.
Other than that, there's really not much to say just yet. We've had some lane changes, which have been interesting. Hala is no longer mid. I am, and that's weird. That's really weird, actually. Not looking forward to that just yet. But Hala is also doing a lot of our shot calling now instead of me. So being in side lane's helping with that a lot.
Cool. That's good.
And Master, be nice. Girls do not suck.
Okay.
I wonder if Master's ever run into Raven A.
Mez, you already know the answer to that. We've had this discussion multiple times.
You're a terrible man. You're a terrible man. All right, well, that wraps it up for this particular episode of Deicide, and we are going to go ahead and tune into the Smite game. That's what he's streaming on. Smite game stream to find out what this new jungle item is. New starting item jungle. It's a new starting item. It's not specifically a jungle item, maybe. We'll find out in a few minutes. But I'm sure Bart will tease it for the first hour. You know, we're going to talk about this at 4, so sit here while I yell on my microphone for a little while. Also, please do be afraid because they've learned where the volume control is for his microphone, and they might have turned it up. So, all right. Well, thank you very much, Pon Spray Rakin, for joining me.
No problem, Demon.
So, that's it. We will be back here next week. 2 to 3 o'clock is Deicide, and we'll be talking all about the stuff of the week next week. Yay! We'll end it with the tournament winner video because I like it. It looks very pretty. Yay!
Is it a Nuki?
No, I made that.
Oh, nice.
Thank you. I made this.
I
Took me
like.
like 2 days.
I just know Nuki does like all the things.
Yes, he does all the things. He really does. But thanks much, guys.
Deicide.